Okay, hi, my name is Loli Kantor, and I'm very pleased to be in this exhibition from generation to generation. My work in this exhibition are a series of photographs from Eastern Europe, and they portray Jews of Eastern Europe. So I actually started without thinking that I will create a project such as a long project like this. It spans over 8 years, but I started just by going to Poland to volunteer at a reclamation project in Krakow in the former labor camp known as Prashov. And it's sort of known from the movie Schindler's List. That's the place. And I volunteered to work there. And I thought that in that way I will spend a month in the place and I will be able to research a little bit or as much as possible about my background. And I didn't want to make this trip to Poland as a tourist. I wanted to actually spend time there. I am a second generation Holocaust survivor. Both my parents survived, they were Polish Jews. And I really didn't know much about their background or their families. Both of my parents died when I was young. I was 14 when my father died. And my mother died in childbirth with me, so I never actually met my mother. So I went back with documents, a lot of papers and documents, and I just wanted to find out as much as possible. And during that time, I documented the project itself and Prashov and everything I could see. Then I realized that I actually wanted to photograph or meet living Jewish communities in Eastern Europe. And I visited, places of remembrance, Auschwitz, and later Treblinka, and later other death camps. But I photographed in a certain way at the time. I really wanted to make it. First of all, I was a black and white photographer at that time. And then I used cameras. I tried to think, what do I want to portray? And so I used pinhole, and I used the panoramic, and I used 35 if I needed it for using higher speed film or technical aspects like those. But as the time progressed, I changed both the way I worked, and I also introduced color to the work. And then I also rethought the size of the photographs, and I also wanted to change the way I print the black and white. And so the evolution into the Palladium works that are in the exhibition at the Contemporary Jewish Museum are that result of that, those thoughts that developed in my during that time. And I thought that I wanted them small, I wanted them brown, I wanted them darker, or looking like as if they're sort of a history in the making, because it's all contemporary, and the people in these photographs look like it's very timeless. These specific images, I thought that they just look more, they're a little more precious, and they take more time to look at them. I mean, close, you need to go closer. It's a little bit cliche sounding, like a photo album, but sort of like a photo album, but more about the preciousness, the size made it not so obvious and not so that you see every detail. I didn't think that I needed to see every detail. So I'm using the Palladium process for the prints in this exhibition. And the Palladium process is a 19th century process, and it is a contact print. The size of the prints are the size of the negative, and the paper is treated with metals that are applied on the paper with a brush by the artist, and then the negative is put on top of that. The paper gets dried, and then the negative gets applied on top of that, and it gets exposed to UV light, to sunlight, and then developed. And it creates these kind of darker, and it also becomes part of the paper. It's not applied, it's not an image that sits on top of the paper, but it's engraved in the paper, part of the paper. And I chose images that portray the people and not places of memory as much in the selection for this work. we ended up selecting images of living people now, of rituals, of the only place that is sort of implies into a very personal place is the photograph of the Targova where my father's family lived, and that's the only one in the series. Otherwise, most of them are from Ukraine, and they're of the people that I met there. And I felt a very strong sentiment to these people, and so I also wanted to print them that way because it sort of created in me the memory of all the stories I heard as a child about the life there, or whatever I imagined that it was. I don't know. For me, these things are very important. So every piece of paper that I found that had something about them meant a lot to me, and then I think it was so strong that I couldn't keep going there, anymore. So that's part of the reason I also went to Ukraine to photograph the living communities, making it more of a history that in the making now, and not documenting documenting that.